Yay, it's showtime. Thank you guys for joining our live today. Hey, help me find the remote. Um, the remote. No. I don't really need it, but I just wanted to be able to do some things. No, that's okay. Anyways, just waiting for everyone to join the live. We actually thought we had started right at 7, but I guess I didn't push the go live button. So, but either way, I was just setting up and waiting for everyone to join, trying to connect with the guys on TikTok here, just so they can join. Because this topic, I get questions about this stuff all the time, so I want to be able to answer your questions today. So while I'm talking, if there's anything that comes up that you would like to, you know, discuss or ask a question about, just put in the comments, and along the line, I will take a break and answer those questions. Okay. So today, from the topic, you can see we're talking about how to get your 10-year green card, especially when there's spousal abuse or mistreatment or something going on in your marriage, and you're not sure if you should continue staying in the marriage or what your options are. So that's what we're talking about today. My book had everything set up here, and then I moved some things. So give me a second. Okay, I found it right there. Let me know where you guys are watching me from. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I help clients all over the USA file green card, petition through family, and other things that come up with immigration. So let me know where you're watching me from right now. And so we can connect. Maybe you might meet someone in your area, and we can connect and help each other. If you're watching me from YouTube or just my Facebook page, you can feel free to join my Facebook group, which is a great resource for people who are filing their green card through marriage. So that's specifically what the group is for. It's for filing your green card through marriage, or adjusting a status or consulate process. So you can get a lot of information from that group. So check it out. If you check out at Marriage Green Card Lawyer on social media, it's down there. You'll be able to find all that information. Okay. Just waiting a few more minutes, and I'll just get into the topic. TikTok is, there's a lot of followers on TikTok that and they all love to be on live. So I like to include them if I can. Today I almost didn't. I was having some technical difficulties, and I was going to use my phone for this session. And if I do that, then I won't have been able to go on TikTok. So I need more devices, I guess, to be able to go everywhere at one time for you guys. But anyways, without further ado, let's just get into it. Today we are talking about getting your 10-year green card, how can I still get my green card if my spouse is abusive? What are my options? Yeah. So in this category of people, I get questions about this stuff all the time. There are 3 categories of people that always ask this question. So I'm going to talk about each category. And if you fall into any category, feel free to ask questions as I explain, what your options are in that category. So the first set of people I'm going to talk about who have this question, how can I get my 10-year green card after my spouse has been abusive or manipulative or something happened in my marriage? I don't know if I can do this anymore. What are my options? So the first set of people that always ask me these questions, they're non-filers, people who they're in the U.S. usually, married to a U.S. citizen or permanent resident for a number of years, typically not even newlyweds. I've met people 3 years married, 5 years married, they haven't filed. So, and then their spouse, has been either threatening to divorce them or just telling them, I'm not going to file for you because if I file for you, you will leave me, and then doesn't give them any money, those types of people. So what are the options if you fall in this category to still get your green card? So even just today, and actually that reminds me, I need to share this I got a question from a client just today about a situation whereby someone is being abused by the spouse. This person is a non-filer as well, so they fall into this first category. But this person lives outside the USA, okay? And then the question is, what are her options? Because she knows that I always help people in abusive situations to get free from that situation and still get their green card anyway. And so it was very tricky because that person, the victim in this situation, is outside the USA. That's tricky because one of the requirements for VAWA is that you are currently in the USA and that the abuse happened in the USA. Okay, so without knowing much about this case or knowing what's going on, my first instinct is that she may not be able to get her 10-year green card like what we're talking about here. So most of this information applies to people who are currently inside the USA. Okay. If you're inside the USA, you're married to a US citizen or permanent resident, and it's been a number of years and you still haven't filed, you still don't have your green card, you're most likely in an emotionally abusive relationship. And if that's the case, then you're living with the abuser, you have a bona fide marriage. At this point, you'll be filing your VAWA self petition, which allows you to get your 10-year green card without your American husband or wife helping you. Excuse me. I'm glad I have this water because all this talking I'll be doing for my job involves a lot of talking and planning because every case is different, so we have to get through all the storylines. So sometimes my voice is just like done. But anyways, a non-filer, this is the first category because I feel like this particular individual has the most disadvantage because at this point, sometimes you may be out of status. I've had some clients who may still be on a student visa and end up just falling back on their student visa because the spouse, is not filing for them and they're not able to kind of move forward or drop their classes or something. They have to keep taking classes because they don't want to be out of status. So this person in this category has a lot of disadvantages. Like you literally can't do anything. If you're out of status, you fall the risk of getting deported, like getting a removal, letter or something. Once you get that letter from the USCIS, you have to go to court, from ICE rather. I think it's ICE. You have to go to court. You're now in removal proceedings. You might get deported. Just things going on. It's now on your record then that you were in removal proceedings. So definitely want to avoid getting that letter. But if you're married to your U.S. citizen spouse, you can't really force him or her to file for you, right? They'll keep saying, "Oh, I'm going to file. I'm going to file." That's another tactic. They'll keep postponing the filing, or they'll say, "I need to know that you're loyal to me before I file." Okay. One situation I just heard about, they said I was married for 11 years. We have two children together, and I just, I'm about to file. The first thing that came to my mind was like, why did you wait for 11 years to live with someone? And you didn't have your green card, you didn't have work authorization, you didn't have travel permit. So were you guys not traveling around like as a family, or were you not working to help family? Like what was going on? So that to me, that's just a red flag. Waiting that long before you file, right? So this particular non-filer, you don't have anything in the system, so you'll be filing straight up VAWA, self-petition. You're taking over the petition. You're gonna let USCIS know that, hey, listen, I married this person. Our marriage is great, but because I'm a non-citizen, this person continues to control me, and I'm not able to work or take care of myself, my family, my children, or whatever the case may be. Travel, I mean, the freedom. Plus, if they don't want to file for you, they don't even file for a divorce. So that's another level. So now you're like a prisoner at this point. You're not able to marry somebody else or just leave the USA, because if you leave and you're married to them, you still have to get a divorce to marry somebody else at some point. So you always be tied to them until you get that proper divorce and move on. So person is not divorcing you, not filing for you, making you feel like, oh, you just married me for this green card, isn't it? They always make you feel guilty about asking about filing. Meanwhile, they know the importance of having that documentation in the USA, right? So that's the first category. So straight up VAWA, this one's straightforward. With a VAWA self-petition, you can file for your I-485, which is your actual green card application, right? Because there's a petition and then there's an application with every process. The petition is supposed to come from your U.S. citizen spouse, but because of the abuse, you have to just do the petition yourself. So VAWA essentially is. So, and then you can also file to adjust your status, to get your work permit, your travel permit, and everything, right? And you're good to go. So, with that, you can either continue to live with the abuser, if you don't have anywhere else to go until you figure it out. But if it's a violent situation, like an abusive situation where you're being physically, abused, definitely get out. Definitely don't wait in that situation until you can figure out your green card. Just get out, find some safety first, and then talk to a lawyer. There are several Catholic charities and organizations that help women specifically for immigration, like victims, specifically for immigration filings. So you can find something like that if a lawyer seems like something you can't do right now, because it's very understandable, right? You're not working, you haven't worked for some time, and then there's this situation that you definitely need to get out of. So your only way out is to be able to get your own work permit and start working and building your life again. Okay, so for some people, it's not an option to return to their country because it may have been a very, we don't know what type of situation it is in their country. Plus, you're married to a U.S. citizen. That is one of the what I say benefits. You're the beneficiary, right? Of being married to a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. So if it's for malicious reasons that this person just prevents you from actually moving forward, sometimes the marriage just doesn't work out. Okay, you marry someone, you want to file for your green card, but it just doesn't work out, and then you end up just divorcing or whatever. Then you meet somebody else, or you don't even file with this marriage. So there's different situations, right? But if the person doesn't file for you out of manipulation, doesn't do, so you can somebody else and file or just move on with your life. That's where you have problems. Okay. I'm checking the comments to see if I have any questions. But if not, I'll move on to the next category of people that typically ask me this question, that typically face abuse from their U.S. citizen spouse. Okay. Let's see. Second category. Okay, so if you're a non-filer, you never filed. That's one thing. There's another group of people who also end up facing spousal abuse and end up being confused because at this point they don't know what to do because this set of people have already filed for their green card. They submitted everything. The spouse even helps them, put everything together. It was great. And now green card process takes about 12 to 24 months. That's two, okay? In the process of waiting, something happens, your spouse just switches up on you and you don't know if you can continue the marriage or you don't know what to do because they've already filed. Because if they didn't file, you could just be like, you know what, I'm done, divorce, I'm going back to my country, like whatever. You could just leave them and just move on. But now that they filed, you have something pending in the system. If you just like leave, maybe you've overstayed, that could potentially like affect you. So you don't want to just leave without, either canceling the application or something. Like you don't even know what to do at this point. So that's a second category of people who face spousal abuse, spousal mistreatment. Your spouse is acting up. My spouse is acting funny. And that's what people say, when they call me. Um, it's unfortunate that that happens because when you first filed in your mind you're like, oh, this is my person I'm going to build a life with. Sometimes so the person was even the one that to stay in the USA so they can file for you. Maybe you didn't even say anything about a green card. I've heard that a lot. And whenever that's the case and they're pushing you to stay, that's because maybe they just want someone for different reasons, right? They need someone for something in particular in their life, and they feel like is through, they have an immigrant, someone who you don't have any legal status, or and many people who are non-citizens feel like they can't call the police, or they don't really want to make trouble, so you're an easy candidate. And that's what they think about. They're like, okay, I'm going to get this person. Are you going to help me? I've seen people, this is basically like some form of human trafficking, I'm sure, because they end up using their spouse for like, labor without paying them. Like you just use them for different types of jobs. Somebody called me, I'm working at the family restaurant and they don't pay me. I'm not able to obviously get another job because they don't have their green card yet. And when I ask for money, it's a problem. Or another person that was doing, what do they even have this person doing again? Was this some type of home health care, something like that? So you bring the immigrant in for 2 years. This man was busy helping with the home health thing, thinking that they would file the papers, and they kept telling him, "Oh, don't worry." Like, we'll file. The day was like the family because it was just a whole plan. And at this point, the person came to me, he's like, "Listen, I'm stuck. I don't know why this family wants. I feel like everyone's against me at this point, and I don't know what to do. Like, do I have any options? Like, what do I need to do? Can I call the police?" I was like, of course you can call the police. Um, Call the police if you don't feel safe, because apparently they had guns as well with the family. And so that also heightened the fear of saying anything. So you're just going to work every day for 2 years and they keep telling you, oh, we're gonna pay for your lawyer, we're gonna hire a lawyer, we're gonna do everything. So in your mind, it's gaslighting. They keep gaslighting you forever. Like, and so you feel, if I say something, am I gonna seem ungrateful? Like, these people are so good to me and stuff. So I don't know, let me just wait. Maybe I'm just being impatient. You just make all these excuses. Meanwhile, you know deep down that this makes no sense. If you're gonna be helping the family, it shouldn't be like a work type situation where you don't have any freedom for yourself. It's just so maybe helping things. I mean, you don't have your green card yet. Like, hey, listen, I need my work authorization to be able to work and do all these things, you know. But when you're an immigrant non-citizen, you don't know all your rights, and you end up falling into these types of situations. And that's abuse right there, right? That's emotional abuse, financial abuse, because they are using you for your physical strength without paying you, compensating you in any way. Maybe not paying, because at this point you may not have a work authorization. You know, so if you do have a work authorization, then they should be paying you, right? So someone's asking a question here. I'm going to take a break to answer, and then I'll get on to the third category of people who definitely can get their 10-year green card because they've been abused by their spouse. And, towards the end, I'll talk more about the types of documents you can use to prove abuse, like how you can make your case to USCIS. Because at this point, you have to convince USCIS that your marriage was real at first and it turned abusive, and that's why you should get your green card. Okay. And someone's asking, how long does it take for a spousal visa to get approved so my wife can come here to wait for the green card? So, spousal visa, adjustment of status, any family-based I-130 petition is going to take from 12 to 24 months. That means between a year to 2 years. Okay, it's just because it's a two-step process, right? You have to do the petition, and once the petition is approved, then you can move on to the visa stage. Okay, same thing for adjustment of status. Only thing is that the person is going to be in the USA, and then they'll potentially get their work authorization, and then can continue to live here and wait for your green card versus like someone who's just waiting for the visa. So sometimes the extra time is just from the embassy and travel time, all that stuff. Make sure your wife has her passport ready because you're going to need to put the visa in the passport. And then obviously when she comes into the USA, you pay for the green card. It's like $200 some, and then get that in the mail. Okay. So I hope that answers you. And someone else asked, how long will it take to divorce when it's mutual? Divorce timeline is really dependent on your state. Every state has different rules for divorce, so I can't really tell you how long it'll take. Just depends on how long you need to do your separation before you file the divorce and all that stuff. So that just depends. Okay. All right. So I'm going to move on to the third category of people who typically ask me this question. Typically, I want to know how they can move on to getting their 10-year green card because their spouse has been, it's like I've been bearing this, I'm tired, I can't bear it anymore, I'm done. Okay? What are your options? These are people who already have their green card. Typically, they have their 2-year green card, and they know in order to remove conditions and to get your 10-year green card, you need your spouse. You need to have a bona fide marriage. You need to still be married to do that. So that's why they're worried. Like, so what do I do? This person is always threatening me with divorce, always money. I recently heard a story. It was funny. I mean, it's not funny, but like I was just like, wow, these are the things you have to do when you are being controlled by someone. This person was like, I have to wake up, like whenever my paycheck is coming in to the joint account, I have to make sure I'm up at like 3 a.m. so I could transfer the money, because otherwise my spouse will take all the money and take my paycheck. I was like, wow, that's deep. So that's a lot of anxiety, a lot of financial abuse and control. And what's like, why would that even be a thing that will be happening if your a U.S. citizen spouse doesn't, feel like they have control over you? Like, you can't say anything. Like, basically, you won't be working and earning without me. So this is my money too. That's crazy. And yes, I'm a lawyer. I'm a USA immigration lawyer. I serve clients all over the USA, located in North Carolina. I don't know if you guys caught that in the beginning, but if you're just joining, thank you for joining. I've been seeing a lot of questions coming in, especially on TikTok. I'll try to answer as much as I can. But yes, USA immigration lawyer with IFE Immigration Law Firm. You can check me out online or just at Marriage Green Card Lawyer on social media. Um, I always share tips, green card application tips, especially for family-based immigration and other special types of immigration like VAWA, for example. VAWA is a big one because a lot of people just don't know about VAWA and they end up suffering and staying in abusive situations for a very long time because they don't know the options. So that's what I do. I tell people about the options, and I also help them file if they need a lawyer or need a lawyer for interview prep or interview attendance, just anything family-based, marriage-based. I can help you with that. Okay. Someone's asking, okay, you did your biometrics and you forgot to send your birth certificate, so you had to file so that are you telling me that you got denied? So if you got denied because you missed out on documents and you had to do the motion to reconsider, which is the I-290B, that will take a couple of months. It won't take up to a year, but it could with the backlogs going on right now. It could take quite a while again, because what you're saying for the motion to reopen or reconsider, you're like, hey, listen, my application was good. I really should get this green card, but I missed this birth certificate. So here's a birth certificate. Just approve my green card. So did you already have an interview? Did you have an interview, or you just got straight denied? Like, so, because all that depends as well. Are you gonna get called for another interview? Like, that's gonna all affect how long it's gonna take. Okay. Yeah. So back to this, I'm going to just wrap it up really quickly and then talk about some more ways that you can prove abuse. For those of you who are in this category and have questions, you want to know how to start, like what to do. Is people always message me as well, like, I think my spouse, I think I'm in an abusive marriage, but I just don't know how to prove it because maybe their spouse doesn't physically hit them. Physical abuse is not the only form of abuse; it's just one of them. So they don't know how to prove it. They don't know how to. They don't just know if someone's going to believe that they're actually being abused. So I'll talk about some of those things. All right. So if you have a 2-year green card and your spouse starts to um, all of this starts to happen, basically you have the option to file to remove conditions with a waiver. Okay, I always make this distinction because a lot of people think that if your spouse is abusive at any stage of your immigration, you're going to file VAWA. Okay, so VAWA is one thing, it's VAWA self-petition. VAWA self-petition, that's one thing. And an abuse waiver is another thing. And it only depends on what stage of your immigration you're at. That's going to depend on the one you're going to use. Okay. So for someone who hasn't filed, or for someone who has filed and is pending, you're both going to file a VAWA petition because you have to replace the petition. Your petition is not approved. You don't have a green card. Okay. For someone who has a green card already, that means your I-130 has already been approved. Okay, you already have a green card. But your spouse is now abusive and you have to leave the marriage, or the person just divorced you out of nowhere. That happens too. They just said, I'm done with this marriage, and just kind of abandoned you and just left. At that point, you file an abuse waiver, okay, which will still have some of the elements of a VAWA petition, but not all of them. For example, for abuse waiver, you're not going to need a police report for that because, not a police report, a police background check. I always mix them up. A police report is just to prove incidents. Well, police background check is to show if you are a person of good moral character and you actually should get the green card based on VAWA. Okay. But for an abuse waiver, you don't need a police background check for that because you're already a permanent resident. Okay. Just like common sense, right? So already a permanent resident, you just need to let them know that, hey, I need to remove conditions. I'm bona fide. So in all these applications, whichever category you're at, you have to show that your marriage is bona fide. You can't just meet someone after 3 months, you get married, and then after 5 months, you're like, oh, this is an abusive marriage. And maybe it might be an abusive marriage, but you just have to leave at that point. But for you to file a VAWA petition, you have to show that the marriage was real at first, the relationship, not just from the point of marriage. You had, several months of dating, different things, commingled life, shared life, you know each other's families, you live together, so many things before you can even claim abuse. All right. Some people in my comments sometimes are always like, oh, what if the person is lying or faking or whatever, and USCIS. I'm like, that's not, you missed the point because you can't lie or fake about this. You may lie or fake and say, okay, I've been abused, but if they look into your relationship and there's no substance there, you're still not getting that green card. So the thing is, make sure you have a bona fide relationship, make sure you have evidence of that. Then make sure you're a person of good moral. That means you haven't committed any crimes. And then you can show that, hey, I've done XYZ, but I married this person with good intentions, and now this is happening. So I need to divorce, but I still need my green card, or I need therapy or whatever, but I still need my green card. Okay, that's the final category. In the second category, there was something I didn't mention, which I think is very important if you already filed and your spouse becomes abusive. Okay, this is important because it could potentially help you save some money on your filing fees. Okay, the filing fees for immigration, aside from lawyer fees, you still have to pay government fees for the forms. Each application and petition has its own fee. So, aside from that, I think I'm losing my train of thought. But anyways, saving money. That's what I was talking about. Yeah, so you have to if you're in the other category of where you actually already filed and you paid that $12.25 for that I-485, you could potentially save that money if you're able to let USCIS know ahead of time before they make a decision that, hey, I filed this petition, but I'm gonna have to. Could you just hold on and making the decision because I need to file a VAWA petition now because my spouse is abusive and so on and so forth. Okay, that's only for people who have already filed. If you've never filed before, you're just gonna have to start from the beginning, file the petition, file your application, make sure you file your work authorization and your travel permit because that's the only way you're gonna get that. If you don't file those, you just be waiting for a VAWA petition. I've seen people who just file the VAWA petition and just keep waiting. But VAWA petitions take quite a while to get it. So you want to travel and work and earn some money and just have a seemingly normal life while you're waiting for those 2 years. It's best to file to adjust status and also file to get your work authorization and travel permit. Yes. My cat just came to sit beside me for some pets. Okay, so that's it. Those are the 3 categories of people who typically want to know how to get their green card. And you get your 10-year green card because this process takes a while. So by the time the VAWA petition is coming around to be approved, you would have already been married to your spouse for over years, and so you will most likely be getting a green card at that time. Okay, So that's essentially how you get from abusive marriage to 10-year green card, okay, through self petitions. You don't need physical abuse. You don't need a police report. You don't need to have called the cops, because typically when there's financial abuse, like the example I gave you guys earlier with the spouse checking the joint account every day at 3 a.m. to make sure that they know when the paycheck hits so they can withdraw it. So all that's jabadantics. Like, you won't call the, but that's definitely a form of emotional abuse and financial abuse and control, because you can't be free. You shouldn't, after working and doing all that, you should be able to enjoy your money and do all that without having to pay too much. Okay. Um, Someone's asking from YouTube, what happens if the U.S. citizen threatens to withdraw your petition while the case is pending? So that's a great question. So this question, you will fall into the second category of people I was talking about, who filed and you submitted everything, and then your spouse starts threatening, I'm going to divorce you, I'm going to stop the process, I'm not going to your interview, so on and so forth, all that stuff. So you will still be doing the same thing. If that's your situation, you will be filing your vow self petition at this point. Immediately, you can potentially ask for your I-485 to be held, for them to kind of stop processing that form until you file your vow petition. But if you're not able to do that, maybe your spouse already canceled it before you could even do that, and they sent you a letter saying you don't have an application anymore. At that point, you will just still file your vow petition, just like the person in the first story, because that just makes you a non-filer. And same thing, just go ahead, put in another I-485, I-765, I-131, all that stuff with your vow petition. And be good. All those numbers probably sound foreign to you guys, but those numbers are they mean work authorization and travel permits, essentially. So if you've been on a family-based application for a while, you probably know those numbers now. We always talk in numbers in immigration, numbers and letters. We have a lot of acronyms. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for the question. Very, very great question. Really want to let you guys know that you have options, that you really don't need to continue to live in that situation. I mean, sometimes I talk to clients about even considering the options of just not even living in the USA, if that's an option for you. Maybe you have had a job, but sometimes some people came from very well-to-do situations, and their spouse manipulated them to stay here, and they don't have anything here. They're not, it's just hard to start over. I was like, well, you don't have to continue to stay in marriage. In fact, I didn't add that to the categories, this set of people that always ask me this question as well. Because for those people, I'm like, at this point, if your spouse is abusive, all you have to do is just divorce and move on with your life. Because if you already have your green card, the only thing that happens to you if you file divorce or just move on, you don't have to file a vow at that point because you already have a 10-year green card. What happens to you is that when it's time for your citizenship, you're going to have to wait for 5 years if you file a divorce or something from your spouse, instead of 3 years, which I'm like, 5 years versus being in an abusive marriage just so you can get your citizenship in 3 years. I mean, which one do you want? So it's always that option. Just jump up, take your 10-year green card, just go. They can't withdraw your green card when you already have your 10-year green card. It doesn't work that way. USCIS has to have a finding of maybe fraud or like crime or something that's your court and the whole thing before you can lose your green card. So whenever someone is threatening you, I'm going to, try to make you feel like I gave you your green card so I can take it away. I'm like, no, you didn't. USCIS did. I only qualified because I was married to you, right? So you don't have to feel grateful for anything. You just have to be in a partnership, right? And know that this is something that's good for the partnership. And that's it. You don't have to necessarily start being all, extra just because someone filed for you, and I love you so much, you're the best, so blah blah blah, all that stuff. No, it's a partnership. This is what comes with it, right? The person most likely already knew about marital or spousal green cards before you got married. So it's not like as if you're just marrying them and making up something or asking for something that's so bizarre and unheard of, right? So, great question. Thank you very much. Let me see some more questions I have here on TikTok, and um, we'll go from there. So, I think this was the last thing I was going to talk about in for this live. Welcome to the month of July. I can't even believe we're in a new month because I was going to give you my schedule for going lives, and I was like, this is actually a new month. So I'll see how it goes, but just follow me on social media, and you get to see. I always post about my lives or anything I'm doing. Okay. Let's see. What will be filed with an I-29F, and can you also file for an adjustment of status at the same time? This is an interesting question. Are you here on a K-1 visa and then being abused by your U.S. citizen fiance? Because that's a whole different thing. You could potentially still get your green card through that, and it won't be a waiver. It'll be you filing a petition. Because remember, waivers are for people who already have their green card and have an approved petition. They just need to waive the spouse's signature for removal of conditions. So they already have their green card, right? That's why they're using a waiver, not a petition. In the I-29F situation, which I'm thinking that is a fiance visa, sounds like you don't have a petition on file, so you'll be needing a family-based petition. I don't know. Definitely speak to a lawyer about that, because there's definitely an option, but there are different nuances to that when you haven't actually married the. Because if you already got married, then it's fine because you need that bona fide relationship. But if it's a fiance visa situation, you know, your only relationship is just the engagement. Um, you know. So, Alyssa, you didn't get the interview yet, but there you submit 290B. Who asked you to do that? Did you get advice from someone to do that? Or or what? Or you just did that because you forgot to send in your birth certificate? Because I don't think that's what you're supposed to do. So you have to be careful about sending things to USCIS if you didn't get a request for evidence or denial or something. You can't just send them random things about your case, because that will confuse the whole thing. And I-290Bs have a fee, so you pay another fee for that. Generally, if you missed something in your application package, just wait for them to send you an RFE and then you send it that time. You don't have to just send in something random. My voice has started acting up again. But yeah, that's it. So let's another question and then we'll just wrap up here. When your I-751 is pending and it's time to file the N-400, would it slow the process altogether? No, it won't slow the process altogether, because actually filing that speeds up the process, because N-400s typically don't take a long time to process. And if they process your N-400 and realize that you have a pending removal of conditions, they'll end up doing a joint interview. So that's something that USCIS does. You do 2 interviews where you have to answer questions about the bona fide marriage, or providing a waiver at that time if there's like some abuse issues, and then also answering questions about N-400 stuff, like all those questions, your citizens questions, how many people are in the House of Reps, all that type of stuff. They'll ask you that next. So You could potentially do both interviews if it's taking a long time and you qualify for your naturalization. You can do that. A lot of people do that. That's one way to speed up an application that's taking forever. Okay, so great questions, you guys. And like I said, you don't need a police report to prove abuse. You can mostly use your statement, your own statement of what's going on with you. Your therapist statements is good to always go for like some sort of assessment, psychological assessment, so that USCIS can know how your mental, how has this abuse affected your mental state? Like, are you able to sleep or go to school, or like what's going on since you've been through the abusive relationship? All right, thank you very much for watching, and your questions as well. I'm seeing a lot of thank yous coming from everywhere, but we're about to wrap up anyway. So you guys just follow me subscribe on YouTube for those of you watching on YouTube, or on social media, so you don't miss out on other tips and everything else. At least once a week, I'm gonna be live, regardless of the day. So we'll just flow and see which one works. It's typically Tuesdays, but lately it just hasn't worked. But last month was something else. But anyway, yeah, trying to prove abuse, you're using your statements of others, your therapist notes, you have text messages, you have photographs in case you have bruises, or maybe photographs of things, in disarray in the house, depending on what happened. Videos and voice recordings are fine, but sometimes you have to transcribe those into words because USCIS, whoever's reviewing your application, may not have something to play that. So we just try to make everything in words so you can read it. So you can use that. But yeah, there are so many ways to prove abuse without a police report, without doing entirely too much. Just make sure that you at least talk to a therapist or someone, in your community, like a counselor, a pastor, or somebody in your community that's well respected and like the ability, maybe like licenses or something like that, to support your statements, because essentially it's still a statement, right? An assessment is still going to be somewhat like a statement from the therapist, but since the therapist is licensed and they have that ability to evaluate your mental state, to support the anxieties and everything you've endured from that marriage, that helps. Okay, so reach out to me. My information is on the screen. You can text me, you can give me a call, we can book a consultation. You can also check me out on social media. My links are there to book time with me, to just either chit chat. I have several types of sessions. If you want a quick question, or if you want like a full case planning session where we actually go into details about your particular situation and how you can build a case for something in particular, you can check that out from TikTok. Our link is always in bio. So yeah, I think that's all I had to say. If I see any more questions coming up, I'm going to be ending now, and you all have a wonderful weekend. Okay. The last question I'm seeing here: how long will an expedite approval on an expedite 212 and 160? What's a 160? Is this for non-immigrant visas? Honestly, all these durations are just guesswork. It's really just hard to know at this point. If there's backlogs in your country, if it's a non-immigrant visa, you're going to have to just check the travel state websites, um, and you should be able to see the timelines for non-immigrant visas. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. You stay blessed as well. And I'll see you guys in my next live. All right. Bye-bye.